Greetings, one and all. Hope you're all doing well and that you're happily working on yourselves. I wanted to do a little encouraging video because some people were discussing with me and asking about themselves and trying to understand who they were. And that's a really important part of doing this kind of work. You know, in the old mystery schools, they had over the doorway as you went in, know thyself. And the mystery schools now, we're having to do ourselves. We're doing it individually, but hopefully encouraging each other to continue in this kind of work. So I've got some Gurdjieff and all and everything here. Try and do it so it's not reflecting the light. And I'm looking at the Fruits of Former Civilizations chapter. And there, Beelzebub's discussing the different principles we should be putting into our everyday life and how we should be going along with these thoughts in, well, not just these thoughts, these principles in our everyday life, in our everyday workings. And there's 7 of them. So I'm going to read them out first, and I'm going to go through them. So we've got number 1, heredity in general. Number 2, conditions and environment at the moment of conception. Number 3, the combination of the radiations of all the planets of their solar system during their formation in the womb of their productress. Number 4, the degree of being manifestation of their producers during the period they are attaining the age of responsible being. Number 5, the quality of being existence similar to themselves around them. Number 6, the quality of what are called the teleochromnionian fault waves formed in the atmosphere surrounding them also during their period of attaining the age of majority. That is, the sincerely manifested good wishes and actions on the part of what are called the beings of the same blood. And finally, number 7, the quality of what are called the being ego plasticori of the given being himself. That is his being efforts for the transubstantiation himself of all the data for obtaining objective reason, which is what we're all attaining to, obtaining objective reason. But there have to be principles to get us working towards all that. You know, Gurdjieff talks throughout his books about the karmic laws, the cosmic laws, the law of fate, the law of accident. You know, which one are you flowing along with? And I suppose the meaning for my little show that I wanted to do today really is about, you know, are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking responsibility for your actions in your life, the way you're living? And I thought these 7 principles kind of covered that quite well, very well. So going back to number 1 of them, heredity in general. So who we're born from, who our family is, where we've come from, the heredity of our family. What sort of parents did we have? Have we turned out like them? I don't know if you have the saying in your countries, but in mine, it's like, you know, they always say, oh, the daughters are going to turn out like their mother. Absolute rubbish. Shouldn't listen to sayings like that. People turn out like their parents if they don't work on themselves and they just imitate their parents, or if they don't break free of the programming that their parents and their peers have put towards them. You know, maybe you were lucky and had parents that were already awake, and so you were brought up with a wonderful childhood, had fabulous genes and great DNA that will hopefully continue in that way, but that's not necessarily so. Your astrological chart also is very important, which is number 2, conditions and environment at the moment of conception. So where you were being conceived obviously had an influence on your development in the womb, and the stars and the planets and their effects on your planetary body and on the planetary body of your parents, and where this is happening or what is going on in the vicinity of where you're being conceived. You know, are you being conceived in a war zone? Are you being conceived in you know, like some kind of, I don't know, holiday hotel or on somebody's wedding night, which would then be full of love and beauty, hopefully, because, you know, these two people have married because they're so happy and in love and they've got married that day and having sexy time in the evening for themselves and hopefully conceiving what would be their firstborn child in wedlock. You know, all these things have effects upon us as we're growing. And okay, our conception is out of our hands, and how we're in what family seems to be out of our hands. You know, was we born into a certain family to deal with karmic resolutions? Was you put into a family maybe that isn't at all spiritual or down any kind of path or work? Maybe you chose that family because you wanted to really work on yourself, and you wanted to have every obstacle that would come in your way to break through all them obstacles, to break through all that programming, to be the individual you are now. I'm still unsure whether we choose what family we go with. I don't know if Gurdjieff's that specific about it. I might have to look into that. I know there's many teachings out there that say we choose our parents. There's many teachings out there that say about how we are reborn into the same family over and over again, you know, the same lineage. You know, perhaps in a past life you were your now today's parents, their parents in a past life. And I recently put up a talk by Steiner all about this, and how he talks about, Rudolf Steiner talks about, throughout your life now, in this present age, you will meet certain people at certain times of your life that will have been an influence in a past life. So we also need to keep in mind the kind of people we're meeting now, because they might be an influence on your future life if you're coming back, if you're caught up in the cycle of reincarnation. You might have been born in a time when the planets and the stars were putting perhaps a maleficent energy down onto the planet to make it more difficult for you to wake up. Or you might have been born in a beneficial time when they were sending down energies that were for helping people to stay awake from the moment of birth. Who knows? But this is something maybe you should be looking at and contemplating. Because he goes on in number 3, the combination of the radiations of all the planets of their solar system during their formation in the womb of their productress. So, you know, you're in your mummy's womb, and you're being born, or not being born yet, you're growing in your mummy's womb as that fetus. And during that 9-month period, give or take, all the planetary influences upon you then are helping develop you. Because when we're born, we're such pure, lovely little babies full of essence, full of love, unconditional love, looking to our parents to look after us. You know, because we're weak and fragile, but we're pure babies with no influence from any secular or any programming at that time. Hopefully during that time in the womb, you didn't hear all the programming going on. Instead, you was just feeling the love of your mother in you, and feeling the love of the planets and the divine source shining down into you. Though I know many of us were born with parents that had difficult times when we were in the womb. So that would also have been influencing us. I very strongly believe in the moment that you are actually born, that connection with your mother should be instant. But not everybody is given to their mother straight away for various reasons. You know, your mother might have suffered quite heavily through the birth process, so she's not quite there with it to take you on, to bond with you straight away. Some of you may not even know who your natural birth parents are. There's that as well. I've met many people in the work who are quite lost souls because they are adopted children, so they don't really know who their birth parents are. So some of this can be difficult for people. I know some people that just don't know what time of the day or night they were born. It's not written on UK birth certificates anymore. I believe it is on other countries still, not all countries. But all this is, you know, if we can find this information, it helps us to know ourselves. If we don't have this information, it doesn't matter. We mustn't let it stress us out. We just continue with whatever knowledge we know of our conception, growing in the womb and being born. And he goes on with the degree of being manifestation of their producers during the period they're attaining the age of responsible beings. And then this is coming to our influences of how our peers have treated us, what kind of teachers we had, what kind of family we grew up in. Were they an encouraging family? Was it a family that didn't really, you know, each person was to themselves? Was it a family that might have been quite violent or has alcohol problems? All this has an influence on us as a child in our development. But if you're doing this kind of work and watching these videos, if you'd had a struggling childhood, you're watching these because you know there's more to life. You've not completely let that upbringing destroy you. You're still, your soul is still, and your subconscious is still calling out to you to develop yourself. You know that there's something better to go on. You want to work on yourself and be, you know, the true human you want to be. And some of us had idyllic childhoods, you know, went out and played and had lots of friends and perhaps lived near a park or woods or something. So we were out in the country and nature and things like that. Some of us had poor childhoods. Some of us had quite well-off childhoods. It's different for each of us. So it shows that people that come to this work come to it not because of how they were brought up, but because of what they still held within inside themselves, that little bit of essence and that germ of a soul continued to grow, and you wanted to develop it. You didn't let it be squashed by peers and such like, if they were not encouraging people. Which goes on to the quality of being existence similar to themselves around them. And I think this relates to who you're with today. It's quite important what kind of people you hang out with. And I know many Gurdjieff people will say to me, oh, we need to have people that annoy us and tread on our corns so that we can work on ourselves. Yes, all well and good, we probably do. But at the same time, we also want to make sure we've got friends that are quality friends and not just friends. You know, how do friendships start? Sometimes people stay friends because they knew each other from childhood, but they grew apart as they grew older, but they were still hanging out, but they weren't the same people anymore. Sometimes we have friends because we don't want to let them go because we feel like we've let them down. You know, if they're friends that are not beneficial to our development, perhaps not a balanced friendship, maybe it's a little bit, you know, more their way, maybe they're a bit of an egotistic, controlling kind of person. We have to make sure that our true friends are the ones that are quality. And I keep using that word because I think it is important. Some people pretend to be friends to get things from us. And we have to make sure we don't do that to other people. And it's not just our friends, it's also who we work with and things like that. I've been learning recently for myself that I've done a lot of dead-end jobs just to have money to pay the rent, which is all fine, you know, need the rent paying. But I've now come to realize that that was quite a degenerative way for me, because I would be coming home depressed from my work or pissed off with my work because I wasn't doing something that was fulfilling me. So I think it's not just the people that are around us that are important, it's what we're actually doing with our lives. But it is difficult to find work that's fulfilling. You know, very few people have the career that they dreamed of, that they wanted to do. Many of us just end up in jobs, especially the way we were brought up, the programming to put to us of, you know, make money, get a house, get married, have children, have family, repeat cycle, blah, 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 and get caught up in the whole secular way of things. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but that didn't fit my kind of lifestyle. But to still be able to get through in this lunatic asylum, as Gurdjieff calls it, we needed jobs to pay the rent and pay the bills. But if we have that opportunity to get out of the dead end jobs and go into something that we find more fulfilling, we must do that, because we need to higher our vibrations in a way. We want to feel like we're fulfilling something in our life. And I'm not saying we should be proud, oh, look what a wonderful job I've done or anything like that. But if we're doing something that is more worthwhile to us, we will feel better in ourselves. If we're going to just that dead end job, unless we know it, you know, we have to really work on ourselves and say to ourselves, this is just to pay the rent. I've just got to get through the day. I'm here to work. And at the end, that wage pays my way. You know, I did, that's how I used to think. And I still think that's, you know, needs to be done when we're in dead end jobs. But I think what I'm trying to say here, because I'm kind of waffling a bit, is we've got to try and make everything in our life have a good quality of being existence, whether it's work, play, sleep, you know, make sure you're sleeping in a nice comfortable bed or wherever you are, wherever you lay your head, that's your home. And I suppose I'm finding this difficult because I know from my own experience in life that I've often ended up just in places or ended up in jobs because it was just offered to me rather than really thinking it through of, do I want this? And so I wanted to encourage that kind of thinking in yourselves. What is it that you want in life? But I'll come back to that in a little while. Let me just get through these. So Gurdjieff number 6, the quality of what are called the teleocriminal Nietzschean thought waves formed in the atmosphere surrounding them also during their period of attaining the age of majority. That is, the sincerely manifested good wishes and actions on the part of what are called the beings of the same blood. And I think that's obviously very important. Wishes and actions from others. Are other people encouraging you? Do other people want you to do well? And I've realized myself in my life, you know, I used to get quite envious that some people were succeeding in ways that I would have liked to, or they'd got that job that I wanted, or they got that guy that I wanted. That, I suppose that was my major one of, you know, how come I didn't get that guy? And I was probably putting forth the wrong kind of wishes and actions when I should have been pleased that that person was with that guy if they were in love. Are our family and our friends also doing that for us? Are they hoping and sending wishes for us to do well? And in this secular age, not everybody is a well-wisher. Many people pretend they are, but we should be able to, by doing this work, realize who's being sincere and who's putting false sincerity out there, who's pretending they want you to do well. It's a difficult subject because we'd like to think that we're all getting along with other people that maybe aren't in a spiritual path or a soulful path. But there are people out there that wish people ill will for their own reasons. So we have to put like a kind of a protection up around ourselves for that. But we've got to feel good for the people that do well. We've got to feel good for those that are moving up the ladder. And we'd like to think our family encourages us, but not everybody's family is encouraging. I do understand that. Not everybody's friends really are encouraging. That's why I was saying about earlier, make sure you have quality friends. But I know many of you don't know anybody else that's in this kind of work. So I understand that's quite a difficult path to continue when you don't have encouragement from someone like that. But I do think that people like myself and hopefully others that watch this show, we're all hoping that all of us are developing and all of us are working on ourselves, because that energy and that vibration will also come through to us all as well. We will all be sending them out, them thoughts and feelings out for the rest of us to catch. We pick it up as well, and we're sending it out to others. Where the sheep of this world, they might just pick it up like a little niggling signal from behind and think, what was that about? Oh, and suddenly perhaps have a moment of conscience. But whether they stick with it, I don't know. But we can all encourage each other. So make sure you have quality people. And then the last of Gurdjieff's 7 principles, the quality of what are called the being ego plasticori of the given being himself. That is his being efforts for the transubstantiation in himself of all the data for obtaining objective reason. We're all trying to obtain objective reason. We're all working on that transubstantiation, wholly affirming, wholly denying, wholly reconciling, transubstantiating me for my being. This is the work we're trying to do. There are moments when there are times when we think this isn't working, or we just go downhill, kind of dark nights of the soul. We have to go through that. I still don't quite understand why, but I do understand I do realize when we come out of it, there's a higher feeling, a higher level of goodness, light, and love within us. Something's worked, something's transformed within us. It's like that darkness is still trying to hold on to us and drag us down, but we're fighting it, and it pushes through. The goodness pushes through that darkness, that dark night of the soul. Maybe it is a test for us. Maybe we have to prove that we're worthy enough to continue on to the next level and the next stage. Maybe that is part of it. And I was thinking also about, I had these kind of questions for you to ask yourself. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking responsibility for yourself, for your actions and such like? Are you doing this in the best possible way? Because the whole point of doing all this is to help us develop to self-realization of who we really are. And getting to know ourselves intellectually, emotionally, physically. We need to know all these sides of ourselves. We need to understand who this spiritual person is within us. And my questions go on. Are you aware of your reality, who you are, what you are doing, and so on? Do you know yourself physically, emotionally? How is your intellect? What is your philosophy on life? How is your spirituality? And we must remember that there's always room for improvement. We never have the total answer to everything, because there's always an ongoing process with this kind of work and this kind of development. We might learn I'm like this now, I was like that in the past, but in the future, you want to be an even better version of who you are now. It's always continuing and going on. And I've done shows like this before about know thyself, but I just thought it's an important point that we need to keep going over with ourselves. We need to keep checking in on ourselves, that we are who we want to be and going where we want to go, working on ourselves. And that was it. The better we are, the better it is for humanity, the better for everyone else, the better person we are in ourselves. I'm not saying better as in you're better than that person or you're better than that idiot over there or whatever. Better in yourself, emotionally, physically, intellectually, you're more aligned to yourself. The better attuned you are to yourself, and you go out there into the real world, you work better with other people, and other people notice it and then treat you differently, hopefully in a good way. Some people get a bit niggled by it and maybe walk away, but many people will pick up on that and feel that vibration. Maybe subconsciously they're not sure what it is, or you'll meet other people that are also in the work or doing some kind of spiritual path, will recognize that you are working on yourself and that you're all here to help each other. It's not a race, it's not a competition about who's going to be better first. Everybody does it at their own pace and in their own way, but we need to do this kind of work for one and all. So, in the words of the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all. Till next time, thank you, peace and out.